You have the power to transform your life. But to do so, you must first master the most important skill anyone can possess: discipline. Motivation is fleeting. It comes and goes based on how you feel or what's happening around you. Discipline, on the other hand, is a constant force. It's the key that unlocks sustained progress and long-term success, no matter the obstacles or challenges in your path. In this book, you will learn how to cultivate unbreakable discipline, a discipline that doesn't rely on moments of inspiration or bursts of willpower, but instead becomes a deeply ingrained part of your everyday life. By understanding the principles of discipline and consistently applying them, you'll be able to push past procrastination, eliminate excuses, and build the habits that lead to true achievement. This journey won't be easy, but it will be worth every effort. With each chapter, you will gain the practical tools and insights you need to transform your mindset, build powerful routines, and take control of your actions. You'll no longer be held back by doubts or distractions. Instead, you'll have the clarity and focus to move toward your goals with unwavering commitment. The path to success doesn't require motivation, it requires discipline, and by the end of this book, you'll have a blueprint to develop that discipline, step by step, until it becomes a natural and unshakable part of who you are. If you're ready to take control of your future and build the life you've always envisioned, then this book is for you. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The Mindset Shift. Choosing discipline over motivation. The truth about discipline is simple, yet profoundly transformative. You've probably heard it all before: just stay motivated, push through the pain, do it even when you don't feel like it. Those are all well-intentioned pieces of advice, but they don't reveal the most important truth. Discipline isn't something that you wait for, it's something you choose, every day. And the best part, it doesn't rely on motivation. It doesn't rely on how you feel. It's built through the consistent actions you take, regardless of whether you feel inspired to do so or not. Imagine this: it's the start of a new day, and you're standing there looking at your to-do list, knowing you've got a lot to tackle. Now, think about the days you felt so energized that you could conquer the world. Everything is clicking, and you dive into your tasks with fire and focus. You make it happen. But what about those other days? The days when the bed feels a little too warm, when your mind tells you, not today, maybe tomorrow, when you can't muster the willpower to get moving. Here's the reality: if you only act when you feel motivated, you'll spend most of your life waiting. Waiting for the spark, waiting for the energy to hit you, waiting for the perfect moment to take action. But here's the catch: those perfect moments rarely come. The real power, the unbreakable strength that creates lasting change, is in choosing to be disciplined even when motivation is nowhere to be found. This is what makes all the difference. You see, motivation is like the weather: it's unpredictable. One day, it's bright and sunny, and you feel like you can take on anything. The next day, it's raining, and all you want to do is crawl back into bed. If you base your actions on motivation, you're letting the weather of your emotions dictate your life. The key to mastering yourself is to stop waiting for the weather to change. Instead, you start building discipline, so that no matter what the weather is like, you can show up and get things done. Discipline isn't some rare mystical trait that only a few lucky people are born with. It's a skill, one that anyone can develop. Just like learning to play the guitar or mastering a sport, discipline is cultivated through practice. It's about making the right choices over and over until those choices become a part of who you are. And just like any skill, the more you practice it, the stronger it gets. Think about it this way: when you first started learning to ride a bike, You probably fell a few times, you wobbled, maybe even crashed a few times, but eventually you got better. Eventually, you didn't have to think about it anymore, you just rode. Discipline works the same way. It may feel awkward at first, you may mess up and miss a day here and there. But with time and persistence, it becomes second nature. When you start choosing discipline over motivation, it's like you're rewiring your brain to act on your goals, not your feelings. Instead of waiting for the spark of inspiration to hit you, you decide to move forward no matter what. And trust me, there's something incredibly powerful about making that shift. Because once you commit to building discipline in your life, the excuses start to fade away. The self-doubt begins to lose its grip on you. And most importantly, you start seeing progress. Real, tangible progress. Day by day, action by action. Let me give you a little perspective. Think of a time when you achieved something you were proud of. Maybe it was something small, like sticking to a workout routine for a week, or something bigger, like finishing a project you'd been putting off for months. How did it feel? That sense of accomplishment, that quiet pride in knowing you followed through, even when it was tough, that's what discipline does. It doesn't always feel like magic, but the results speak for themselves. The more you commit to those small actions, the more you build a habit that pushes you closer to your goals. Now, I want you to think about how often you've told yourself, "I'm not disciplined enough," or "I can't do this." We all have those moments. But here's the truth. Discipline isn't about being perfect. It's not about having flawless execution every time. It's about showing up, again and again, even when it's hard. Even when you don't want to. Discipline is about the choices you make in those moments. It's not about doing everything right. It's about committing to the process, learning from your mistakes, and continuing to move forward. This is where so many people get stuck. They think discipline means never missing a day, never falling off track. But the truth is, discipline is about resilience. It's about getting back up after you slip. It's about understanding that setbacks don't define you, they refine you. The key is to always return to the commitment you made to yourself, to keep pushing forward, no matter how small the steps. And the more you do that, the stronger your discipline becomes. I'll tell you something, the most successful people in the world aren't necessarily the most motivated. They're the ones who have mastered the art of discipline. They show up when they don't feel like it. They do the work, day in and day out, even when it's tough. They don't wait for the perfect mood or the perfect circumstances. They just keep going. And that's the beauty of discipline. It doesn't require a special kind of motivation. It doesn't need to come in bursts of energy. It's steady, consistent, and dependable. It's the quiet force that carries you through when everything else falters. You'll find that discipline is less about waiting for the perfect moment and more about making the decision to act, even when the conditions aren't perfect. Here's the thing, your mind is going to try to talk you out of it. It's going to try to convince you that you don't have the energy or the drive to do what you need to do. But if you listen to that voice, you'll never get anywhere. Discipline requires you to ignore those feelings and take action anyway. It's about pushing through the discomfort, knowing that the rewards come after the effort. So here's my challenge to you today. Make a decision. Decide that you're going to choose discipline over motivation. Choose to take one small step toward your goal, no matter how you feel. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be a giant leap, just one step. And then tomorrow, make that same choice. And the next day, do it again. The key to unbreakable discipline is in the consistency of those small choices. Over time, Those choices will build into something powerful, something that becomes a part of who you are. And once discipline becomes a part of your identity, nothing can stop you. You will become someone who does what they say they'll do, no matter what. And that's how you create lasting change in your life. So stop waiting for motivation to show up. It may come, and it may go, but discipline stays. And that's what will carry you to success. Chapter 2. Motivation versus discipline. The key difference. You're probably familiar with the feeling, sitting on the edge of your bed, looking at a task, a goal, or a dream, and thinking, I know I should do this, but I just don't feel like it today. Motivation is fleeting, and we've all experienced that struggle. There are days when we're filled with energy and excitement, ready to take on the world, but on the other hand, there are those days when it feels like the weight of the world is just too much, and we can't summon the energy to even begin. So what happens when motivation is absent? Do we just quit, throw in the towel, and wait for the next burst of inspiration to hit? If that's your approach, you're setting yourself up for a cycle of start and stop action that leads nowhere. The truth is, you cannot depend on motivation alone to reach your goals. Let me tell you something important. Motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes like the wind, and if you rely on it to fuel your actions, you're always going to be at the mercy of how you feel in the moment. You might feel inspired one day, but the next you could be back to feeling lazy, uninspired, or overwhelmed. Motivation is like that sudden spark of energy that fires up your engine, but what happens when the engine stops? You need discipline to keep it going. Think about this for a moment. When you wake up in the morning, do you always feel motivated to get out of bed and take on the day? Of course not. There are mornings when you feel exhausted, when your bed feels too warm, and when the thought of starting the day just doesn't seem appealing. But what do? You get up, you get moving, you choose to take action, regardless of how you feel. That's discipline in action. It's not about waiting for the right moment or the right mood. It's about showing up every day, even when motivation isn't there. That's the key difference between motivation and discipline. Motivation is like the initial push, but discipline is what keeps you moving forward, no matter what. Discipline is the muscle that, once trained, doesn't rely on feelings. It doesn't need motivation to push it. It just does the work. It's a steady, consistent force that drives you to take action, even when the excitement has faded, and you're left with only the quiet commitment to your goals. Motivation can give you a quick burst of energy, but discipline is the one that gets you across the finish line. Here's the thing, most people misunderstand the relationship between motivation and discipline. They believe that in order to take action, they need to feel motivated first. They wait for that spark of energy to ignite them, thinking that motivation is what drives them. But what they don't realize is that discipline doesn't need motivation. Discipline is the act of showing up and doing what needs to be done, regardless of how you feel. It's about choosing to take action even when you don't feel like it. Let's put it into perspective with something simple. Imagine you're at the gym. The first time you walk in, you might be excited, motivated even to get started. But as the days pass, that initial excitement fades, and it becomes harder to get yourself there. Some days, you just don't feel like working out. You might feel tired, or you might think you've got better things to do. But if you've built discipline, it doesn't matter. You go to the gym anyway. You don't rely on motivation to get you there. You've built a habit, and your discipline kicks in. Now I know you might be thinking, but how do I develop discipline when I don't have it right now? That's where consistency comes into play. Discipline is built over time, with small, consistent actions. It's about making the choice to show up every day, even when it's hard. You start small. You commit to doing one thing, one action, no matter how you feel. And over time, that small action becomes a habit. It becomes a part of your routine. And before you know it, discipline becomes ingrained in who you are. But here's the challenge. It's easy to start something. It's easy to get motivated and take action when you're feeling fired up. The real test is whether you can continue when the motivation fades. That's where most people fall off. They get excited at the beginning, but when things get tough or the excitement wanes, they quit. Discipline is what keeps you going when the motivation is long gone. It's what allows you to persevere even when things aren't going according to plan. One of the biggest mistakes people make is waiting for the perfect moment to start. They think they need to feel motivated or inspired in order to take action. But the truth is, the perfect moment rarely comes. The key is to act in the moment, even if you don't feel like it. Don't wait for motivation to hit you. Instead, build the discipline to do it anyway. The more you act despite how you feel, the stronger your discipline becomes. And before you know it, it will become second nature. Here's another thing you need to understand. Motivation is often driven by external factors. You might get motivated because you see someone else succeeding, or because you watch a motivational video, or because you read a book that sparks something inside you. But discipline is internal. It's about your commitment to yourself, regardless of what's going on outside. Discipline doesn't need to be motivated by external forces. It's driven by your internal commitment to your goals. When you choose discipline, you're taking ownership of your life. You're saying, I don't need motivation to move forward. I have the discipline to do what I need to do. The bottom line is this: motivation will come and go. It's unreliable, fleeting, and often based on how you feel in the moment. But discipline is constant. It's the force that keeps you going, even when motivation has left you behind. It's what allows you to stay on track, to keep moving forward, and to achieve your goals, regardless of how you feel. So the next time you find yourself waiting for motivation to show up, remember this: you don't need it. What you need is discipline. And once you commit to building that discipline, you'll find that you no longer need to wait for motivation. You'll just get to work, and the results will follow. The key to success isn't waiting for the perfect moment or the right feeling. The key is showing up every day, no matter what. That's how you build the discipline that will carry you through. And once you master discipline, there's nothing that can stop you. Chapter 3: Mastering the Power of Small Wins. There's a quiet power in the small things, the small steps, the small wins, the small habits that, over time, add up to something massive. And yet, so many of us overlook them. We get caught up in the pursuit of big, dramatic changes, thinking that success only comes when we make huge leaps forward. But that's not how it works. In fact, it's the small wins, the ones that don't feel like much in the moment, that often have the most lasting impact. The key to building unbreakable discipline doesn't lie in grand gestures or monumental shifts. It lies in the consistent daily wins that you achieve along the way. Think about the last time you achieved something significant, whether it was completing a challenging project at work, finishing a book you were reading, or sticking to a new habit for a week. That success didn't come out of nowhere. It came from a series of small actions, moments where you chose to keep going, even when it felt like nothing big was happening. In the same way, your journey toward discipline is made up of these small, almost invisible victories. Every time you make a choice to keep going, to do the work, even when you don't feel like it, you're winning. One of the most powerful things you can do in your life is to start celebrating those small wins. They are not insignificant, they are the building blocks of everything you will accomplish. Whether it's getting out of bed earlier than usual, finishing a task you've been avoiding, or simply sticking to your workout routine for the day, these wins are powerful because they add up, they compound, and eventually they become the foundation of unbreakable discipline. The problem, however, is that most people don't see the value in these small wins. They dismiss them, waiting for something bigger to happen before they allow themselves to feel accomplished. But here's the reality: small wins lead to big victories. They are the proof that you can do it. They're the evidence that you have what it takes to push through the hard days and come out the other side stronger. And if you keep stacking those wins, you'll find yourself further along than you ever thought possible. But there's a trap that many of us fall into, and that is the trap of perfectionism. We often believe that a win doesn't count unless it's perfect, unless it's flawless, or unless it meets some grand expectation. But that's not the truth. You don't need to have everything figured out right away. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to keep moving forward, no matter how small the step. It's the consistency of those steps, not the size, that matters. Every step you take, no matter how small, is a victory. And that's where the magic happens. Here's the thing: when you focus on small wins, you're building momentum, and momentum is one of the most powerful forces in life. It's easy to get discouraged when you feel like you're not making progress, but the truth is, you are making progress slowly but surely. Those small wins add up. They don't seem like much in the moment, but when you look back after a few months or a year, you'll realize how far you've come. It's like rolling a snowball down a hill. It starts small, but as it gathers more snow, it grows. Your discipline works the same way. Every small win builds on the last one, until you've created something unstoppable. Now, imagine if you didn't just rely on motivation or a burst of inspiration to get things done. Imagine if you built your day around small wins, stacking them one after another. Each time you accomplish something, no matter how small, you're reinforcing your ability to take action, to move forward, to follow through. And over time, you start to build this incredible reservoir of confidence in yourself, because you've proved to yourself, day in and day out, that you are someone who does what they say they'll do. This is what separates those who achieve their goals from those who don't. It's not about having the perfect plan or the most motivation. It's about showing up, doing the work, and celebrating those small wins along the way. The people who reach their goals are the ones who stick with it, who keep moving forward, even when it's hard, and who don't let the lack of instant results stop them. They understand that the journey is made up of small steps, and they know that those steps lead to something much bigger. You might be thinking, but what if I don't feel like I'm making any real progress? What if the results aren't showing up fast enough? Here's the thing: it's easy to feel discouraged when you're in the middle of a journey. You don't always see the progress happening, especially when it's incremental, but trust me, those small actions are making a difference. They are moving you closer to your goal, even if you can't see it right away. When I think about small wins, I think about the power of consistency. The consistency of showing up, even when you don't feel like it. The consistency of taking action every day, no matter how small. You might not see the immediate effects, but trust that those small wins are compounding in the background, and one day you'll wake up and realize just how far you've come. It's like planting seeds. You water them every day, but you don't expect them to bloom overnight. And then after weeks or months of consistent care, you suddenly notice that your garden is growing. Building discipline is like that. You don't need to see immediate results to know that you're making progress. Every small action you take is planting a seed, And over time, those seeds will grow into something strong, something unbreakable. So, here's my challenge to you. Start paying attention to your small wins. Celebrate them. Every time you accomplish something, no matter how minor it seems, take a moment to acknowledge it. Give yourself credit for following through, for showing up, for taking action, because each small win is proof that you're building the discipline you need to succeed. And the more you celebrate those wins, the more motivated you'll become to keep going, to keep building, and to keep moving toward your goals. You might not see it in the moment, but those small actions are adding up. They're creating the momentum you need. And one day, when you look back, you'll realize that all those little wins have added up to something massive. That's the power of small wins. And that's how you build unbreakable discipline. One step at a time, one win at a time. And before you know it, you'll have a life that's been transformed by your consistent effort. So, don't wait for the big moments. Start stacking those small wins now. They're the ones that will carry you all the way. Chapter 4. Creating your routine. The backbone of discipline. If you've ever tried to build a new habit, you know that it's not always easy. You may have the best intentions, but when it comes time to actually follow through, the resistance often feels overwhelming. It's like there's this invisible force holding you back, pulling you away from what you know you should be doing. Whether it's going for a run, reading a book, or sticking to your work schedule, the effort to create a new routine can feel like an uphill battle. The truth is, building a strong routine isn't just about deciding what you want to do. It's about the power of consistency and the way you create a structure that supports your success. It's not just about working harder, it's about working smarter by creating a foundation that makes discipline easier. When we think about routines, we often picture rigid schedules or lists of tasks that we feel obligated to check off. But a true routine goes beyond that. It's not about forcing yourself into a pattern that feels unnatural. It's about finding what works for you and integrating it into your life in a way that feels fluid and sustainable. That's why building a routine that sticks isn't about willpower. It's about creating an environment that encourages you to show up every day, even when the motivation isn't there. Now, let's take a step back. Think about your current daily routine. What's the first thing you do when you wake up? Do you jump straight out of bed, check your phone, or grab a cup of coffee? And how do you feel by the time you get to your first task of the day? More often than not, we don't even think about how our routines affect us. We've built habits over time that we don't even realize are shaping our days. If we're not intentional, these routines can lead us down a path of distraction, procrastination, and lack of focus. Creating a solid routine begins with a commitment to change your mindset about how you approach your day. It's about setting yourself up for success right from the moment you wake up. I want you to think about the first hour of your day. This is where the magic happens. If you can start your morning off with intention and purpose, you'll be amazed at how much momentum you can build for the rest of your day. The way you begin your morning directly impacts your energy, your mindset, and ultimately the discipline you need to carry through the rest of the day. One of the biggest mistakes people make when trying to establish a new routine is expecting too much too soon. They create these ambitious plans, set unrealistic goals, and then wonder why they don't stick. The truth is, habits don't form overnight. They take time, repetition, and patience. If you try to overhaul your entire routine in one go, you're setting yourself up for burnout. Instead, start small. Choose 1 or 2 habits to focus on, and build them into your day consistently. When you get comfortable with those, add more. This gradual approach allows you to create lasting habits without feeling overwhelmed or frustrated. But here's the thing, even when you know what to do, the hardest part is often overcoming resistance. It's the part of you that says, "I don't feel like it," or "I'll do it tomorrow." The key is understanding that this resistance is natural. It's a part of the process. When you try something new or push yourself outside of your comfort zone, your brain will resist because it's trying to protect you from discomfort. But here's the secret: the resistance is not a sign to stop. It's a sign that you're on the right track. Every time you push through that resistance and take action anyway, you're building discipline. You're training your mind to overcome the urge to procrastinate and instead choose action. Think about it like this. When you go to the gym, it's not the first set of reps that makes you stronger. It's the consistent effort over time that leads to growth. The same applies to your routines. Every time you show up, even when you don't feel like it, you're building your discipline muscle. The more you do this, the easier it becomes. Eventually, it won't feel like a struggle to maintain your routine. It will be second nature. And that's the beauty of creating a routine that works for you. So how do you create a routine that truly supports your discipline? It starts with structure. And by structure, I don't mean rigid schedules or micromanaging every minute of your day. I mean creating blocks of time that are dedicated to the most important things you want to accomplish. Structure gives you the framework you need to stay on track and avoid distractions. The goal is to set aside time each day for the things that matter most: your health, your work, your personal growth. When you commit to those blocks of time, you're telling yourself, "This is non-negotiable." The beauty of this is that, over time, your brain starts to associate these blocks of time with productivity and success. And before long, it becomes a habit that feels just as natural as brushing your teeth. Another important element of building a routine is flexibility. Yes, you need structure, but you also need to allow room for flexibility when life inevitably throws curveballs your way. Things won't always go according to plan, and that's okay. The key is to be adaptable. If you miss a workout or don't finish a task, don't beat yourself up. Instead, adjust and move forward. The goal isn't perfection, it's progress. Building a routine that works for you means accepting that life is unpredictable and that flexibility is necessary for long-term success. The next step in creating your routine is accountability. When you have someone to answer to, whether it's a coach, a friend, or even a community, you're more likely to stick to your commitments. Accountability forces you to show up, even when you don't feel like it. It's a powerful motivator because it adds an element of responsibility to your actions. When you know someone is watching, you're more likely to follow through. But accountability doesn't have to be external. You can create accountability with yourself by setting clear goals and tracking your progress. Every time you check something off your list, you reinforce the habit, which strengthens your discipline. One of the best ways to ensure your routine sticks is to make it enjoyable. If you're constantly dreading the tasks on your to-do list, it's going to be hard to stay disciplined. Find ways to make your routine work for you. This might mean listening to an inspiring podcast while you exercise or treating yourself to something small when you finish a task. By adding elements of enjoyment to your routine, you're more likely to stay consistent. Discipline doesn't have to be a punishment. It can be something you genuinely enjoy when you approach it with the right mindset. As you build your routine, remember that it's not about doing everything perfectly. There will be days when you slip up, when things don't go as planned, or when you simply don't feel like following through. And that's okay. The key is to not give up. When you make mistakes, learn from them and keep moving forward. It's the consistency, not the perfection, that will carry you through. And eventually, as your routine solidifies, you'll realize that discipline has become a natural part of your life. The beauty of building a solid routine is that it doesn't just help you get things done, it also frees up mental space. When you have a set structure in place, you don't waste time thinking about what you should be doing. It becomes automatic, which leaves you with more energy to focus on other important things. The more you refine your routine, the more efficient and effective you become. And over time, your disciplined approach to life will lead to massive growth, personal development and success. So remember, building a routine isn't about creating the perfect schedule. It's about creating a structure that works for you, staying consistent, and being flexible when life throws challenges your way. Start small, build gradually and focus on progress, not perfection. Your discipline will follow. Chapter 5. Overcoming Resistance. The battle between comfort and growth. Nothing worth having ever comes without a challenge. You can't have the success, the happiness or the growth you desire without facing resistance along the way. It's uncomfortable, it's frustrating, but it's also absolutely necessary. The truth is, the real battle is not against external forces or other people, it's against your own resistance. Resistance is the invisible force that keeps you from stepping up, from putting in the work, from doing what you know needs to be done. And to build unbreakable discipline, you must learn to face this resistance head-on and push through it, no matter how uncomfortable it feels. We've all been there, right? You wake up with the best intentions. Today's going to be the day you start that new project, work on your fitness, or stick to that healthy eating plan. But somewhere along the way, doubt creeps in. The bed feels too comfortable, the task feels too hard, or you just don't feel like it. That's resistance talking. It's that voice in your head saying, "Not today," or "I'll do it later." It's the easy way out, the path that doesn't require growth or effort. The problem is, the longer you give in to that resistance, the harder it becomes to break free from it. Now, let's get something straight. Resistance is not the same as laziness. Resistance isn't a reflection of your character or your potential. It's simply a psychological barrier, a form of self-protection that your brain creates when it senses discomfort. The brain wants to conserve energy and avoid pain. When you push yourself to do something that feels hard or unfamiliar, it sees that as a threat. So, it tries to convince you to stay in your comfort zone, where things feel safe and easy. But here's the thing about growth, it doesn't happen in the comfort zone. It happens when you push yourself to do the things that scare you, challenge you, and stretch you beyond what you thought was possible. This is where discipline comes in. Discipline isn't about forcing yourself to do things you don't want to do. It's about making the decision to do what needs to be done, regardless of how you feel in the moment. Discipline is the muscle you build when you choose action over procrastination, when you choose growth over comfort, when you choose to push through resistance instead of letting it control you. The more you practice this, the stronger your discipline becomes. And eventually, that resistance, that voice of doubt, starts to fade into the background. But pushing through resistance isn't always easy. It's one thing to say, "I'm going to push through," and another thing entirely to actually do it when everything in you is telling you to quit. That's why the first step in overcoming resistance is to recognize it for what it is. Don't try to deny it, ignore it, or pretend it doesn't exist. Instead, acknowledge it. When you feel that pull to avoid the hard work, pause for a moment and recognize that it's simply resistance showing up. It's a natural part of the process. It's not a reason to stop, it's a reason to keep going. Once you recognize resistance, the next step is to reframe it. Instead of seeing resistance as a sign to quit, start seeing it as a sign that you're doing something right. Resistance is a signal that you're stepping outside of your comfort zone, that you're pushing yourself to grow. Every time you feel resistance and choose to move forward anyway, you're building strength. You're training yourself to overcome the mental blocks that keep you from reaching your potential. Think of it as a workout for your mind. Every time you push through, you get stronger, more resilient, and more capable of handling the challenges that come your way. One powerful tool to combat resistance is to break down the task into smaller, more manageable steps. When a task feels overwhelming, it's easy to fall into the trap of avoidance. You look at the big picture and it feels like too much. But when you break it down into smaller pieces, suddenly the task becomes less intimidating. Start with just one small action. Maybe it's writing one paragraph, doing one set of exercises, or eating one healthy meal. When you focus on taking just one step, the rest of the task doesn't seem as overwhelming. And once you take that first step, you'll often find that the momentum carries you forward. Another key to overcoming resistance is consistency. Resistance loves to show up when we try something new or make big changes in our lives. But the more consistently you show up and take action, the easier it becomes to push through that resistance. It's like any other skill, the more you practice, the better you get. So even on days when you don't feel like it, just show up. Even if it's a small action, make it a point to take that step. The more you show up, the more you reinforce the habit of pushing through resistance, and the less control resistance will have over you. Sometimes, though, you'll find that resistance takes on a different form: self-doubt. Self-doubt is often the underlying cause of resistance. When you're trying to push yourself towards something new, your mind might start questioning your ability. Am I good enough? What if I fail? These thoughts are just another form of resistance, trying to prevent you from taking action. The key here is to acknowledge the doubt, but not to give it power. Everyone experiences self-doubt, especially when they're stepping into unknown territory. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't is how they handle that doubt. Instead of letting it hold you back, use it as fuel. Doubt is a sign that you're growing, that you're challenging yourself to reach new heights. The more you step forward despite the doubt, the more confidence you'll build. There's a simple but powerful mantra that can help when you're facing resistance. Just do it anyway. It sounds simple, but it's incredibly effective. When you're standing at the edge of discomfort, when resistance is calling you to turn back, just take one small step forward. Don't think about it too much. Don't wait for the perfect moment or the right mood. Just do it anyway. You'll often find that once you start, the resistance starts to melt away. It's as if the act of moving forward breaks the grip that resistance has on you. But there's one more thing to keep in mind as you push through resistance: self-compassion. The battle against resistance isn't always going to be smooth sailing. There will be days when you don't feel like it, when you fail, or when you get off track. And that's okay. It's important to be kind to yourself during those moments. Don't let one setback define your progress. Instead, treat yourself with the same compassion that you would offer a friend. Acknowledge the difficulty, but don't dwell on it. Get back up and keep moving forward. Overcoming resistance isn't a one-time battle. It's a lifelong process. Every day you'll face moments where you can either give in or push through. But with practice, you'll get better at recognizing resistance and taking action anyway. And as you continue to build your discipline, you'll find that your ability to face resistance head-on becomes one of your greatest strengths. Resistance will no longer hold you back. Instead, it will become the very thing that propels you forward toward the success and growth you desire. Chapter 6. Strengthening willpower. Building your inner muscle. Your willpower is like a muscle, just like any muscle in your body. If you don't work it, it gets weak. And when it gets weak, it becomes far too easy to give in to temptation, to quit when things get hard, or to simply settle for less than you're capable of achieving. The key to unbreakable discipline isn't about relying on motivation that comes and goes. It's about building the willpower that drives you to keep going, even when everything else tells you to stop. We all have days when we feel drained, when the weight of our goals seems heavier than we can bear, when the couch looks more inviting than the gym, and the sweet treat calls out louder than the healthy choice. But willpower doesn't just come from wishing you were stronger. It's built by making small, consistent choices that require effort, and by practicing resilience in moments of weakness. Willpower isn't something you either have or don't have. It's something you can develop, and the process of building it is deeply rewarding. One of the first things to understand about willpower is that it's finite. You don't have an unlimited supply. Each decision you make, each moment of self-control, chips away at that supply, leaving you feeling less capable as the day goes on. This is why you'll notice that people often struggle with self-discipline later in the day, after they've had to make numerous decisions, handle stressful situations, and push through multiple moments of resistance. Willpower tends to get weaker as you continue to exert it. That's why it's so important to be strategic about how you use it, and to work on strengthening it over time. You see, when you're just starting out trying to change your habits or break old patterns, willpower is your most valuable tool. But if you're constantly relying on your willpower to push through every challenge, it will quickly run dry. The goal isn't to rely on willpower forever. It's to strengthen your mental resilience to the point where it becomes second nature to make the right choices. Building willpower doesn't just mean forcing yourself to do things you don't want to do. It means developing the mental discipline to recognize when you're tempted to make a poor decision, and to choose to make the better one, even when it feels uncomfortable. So how do you start building that inner strength? First, it's important to realize that building willpower is all about practice. Willpower is like a muscle, and just like any muscle, you need to train it. And like training your body, you need to start small. If you try to lift weights that are too heavy at first, you'll end up injured, discouraged, and burnt out. The same goes for willpower. Don't expect yourself to go from zero to hero overnight. Start with small, manageable goals and gradually work your way up. Each time you push yourself to do something you don't feel like doing, you are adding a little more strength to your willpower. One of the most effective ways to build willpower is to practice mindfulness and awareness. This means learning to recognize the moments when you're about to give in to temptation, when you're about to make an easy choice instead of the hard one. A lot of people struggle with willpower because they don't even realize when they're making those choices. They don't see the pattern. Maybe it's skipping a workout because it feels like too much effort, or eating junk food because it's quick and easy. The first step to strengthening your willpower is awareness. Pay attention to those moments. Once you can recognize them, you're halfway there. Then, you can consciously choose to make a different decision. Another way to build willpower is by setting yourself up for success. Willpower is a lot easier to exercise when you've made it easy for yourself to make good decisions. If you know you struggle with saying no to sugary foods, don't keep them in the house. If you have a hard time getting to the gym, lay out your workout clothes the night before. Make it easy for yourself to follow through. You're more likely to succeed if you remove unnecessary temptations and obstacles. This is all about setting yourself up for a win, not waiting until you're in a moment of weakness to try to make the right decision. It's also important to have a deep, compelling reason for why you're doing what you're doing. Willpower isn't just about pushing yourself to do things you don't want to do. It's about doing what's necessary to achieve the goals that matter most to you. When you have a strong why behind your actions, it's much easier to stay focused, even when it gets tough. Your reasons might be about getting healthier, being more productive, or improving your life in some way. Whatever it is, make sure it's something that resonates deeply with you. This will be your motivation when your willpower is running low. Something that often gets overlooked when talking about willpower is rest and recovery. Just like with physical exercise, your brain needs time to recover. If you're constantly pushing yourself without taking breaks, your willpower will wear thin much more quickly. So make sure you're not burning yourself out. Get enough sleep, take breaks throughout the day, and give yourself time to recharge. This will not only help you be more effective in using your willpower, but it will also make it easier to sustain your self-discipline over the long haul. Another technique that can help build willpower is visualization. Visualization is the process of mentally rehearsing an action or outcome. When you can vividly picture yourself succeeding, it makes the task feel more achievable. Take a moment each day to close your eyes and visualize yourself following through on your goals. Imagine yourself making the hard choice instead of the easy one. See yourself succeeding, not just once, but consistently. The more you practice this mental rehearsal, the more it will become a part of your reality. Visualization trains your mind to expect success, which gives you the confidence and strength to push through when it's time to act. Building willpower doesn't just happen overnight. It's a process, and it's one that requires patience and commitment. But the more you practice, the more you'll find that it becomes easier to make the right choices. It won't feel like a struggle anymore. Instead, it will feel like second nature. And with that willpower, you'll start to see more and more of the results you've been working toward. When you strengthen your willpower, you build the foundation for unstoppable discipline. Willpower is the driving force behind your actions, the power that allows you to push through resistance, stay focused, and continue on the path of self-improvement. The more you build your willpower, the more control you'll have over your life. And with that control, you'll find that nothing is impossible. You'll be able to face challenges head-on and continue moving forward, no matter what obstacles stand in your way. Willpower is the key that unlocks your full potential, and when you start building it today, you'll create a future that you never thought possible. Chapter 7. The Discipline of Focus, Mastering Your Attention. You've probably heard it before, but it's worth repeating: where your attention goes, energy flows. The ability to focus is perhaps the most powerful skill you can develop if you want to succeed in anything. Whether it's business, fitness, relationships, or personal growth, everything you want to achieve comes down to how well you can direct your focus. Without focus, your energy is scattered, your efforts are diluted, and your results are inconsistent. Focus is the discipline of the mind, and when mastered, it becomes a superpower that can propel you forward, even when everything around you seems to be falling apart. In a world full of distractions, mastering focus feels like an almost impossible task. Every notification, every email, every ping from your phone or social media is designed to pull your attention away. And let's not forget the internal distractions, the endless stream of thoughts that keep popping up, telling you what to do next, or reminding you of something you forgot. It's easy to feel overwhelmed, and it's easy to lose track of what's truly important. But here's the thing, focus isn't something you're born with. It's a skill that you can learn, and once you start practicing it, the world opens up in ways you never imagined. The first step in mastering focus is understanding why it's so important. Without focus, you won't be able to make progress in anything that requires sustained effort. You can't build a business, learn a new skill, or achieve your fitness goals if you're constantly jumping from one thing to the next, unable to stay on track. Focus allows you to direct your energy toward a single goal and make consistent, incremental progress. It's about cutting out the noise and putting all your attention on what matters most, even if that means saying no to things that seem urgent but aren't truly important. Now, let's talk about how you can develop this ability to focus. One of the most effective ways to start is by creating a structured environment. This means eliminating distractions as much as possible. Think about it. How often do you sit down to work, only to find yourself scrolling through Instagram or checking your email every 5 minutes? How often do you try to focus, but your environment is so chaotic that it's impossible to concentrate? The first step in mastering focus is controlling your environment. If you know that certain things are going to pull your attention away, take proactive steps to remove them. Put your phone on airplane mode. Close unnecessary tabs on your computer. Find a quiet space where you can work uninterrupted. The second step is creating routines. Humans are creatures of habit, and routines help us channel our energy in productive ways. When you have a clear structure to your day, you don't have to waste energy deciding what to do next. Everything becomes automatic. This doesn't mean you have to follow a rigid schedule, but having key blocks of time dedicated to certain activities, whether it's work, exercise or relaxation, helps your brain focus on what's at hand. When you create a daily rhythm, you train your mind to expect certain tasks at certain times, and that structure makes it easier to stay focused when the time comes. Another critical piece of the puzzle is learning to manage your mental energy. Focusing on one thing at a time isn't just about willpower, it's also about conserving your mental energy. The brain can only focus on one task at a time, and when you're switching between tasks constantly, what we call task switching, you're wasting energy and time. The more you switch between tasks, the harder it becomes to focus deeply on any one of them. This constant shifting wears you out, and it makes it harder to stay productive. Instead, try to dedicate focused blocks of time to a single task. Start with short bursts of focused work and gradually build up as you become more comfortable. It's better to work intensely for 25 minutes and then take a break than to work for hours, constantly distracted and unfocused. But even with the best environment and routines, your mind will still wander. It's natural. The key is to notice when it happens and gently guide your attention back to where it needs to be. This is a skill that requires practice. Just like any other discipline, the more you practice focusing, the stronger your ability will become. Don't get frustrated when your mind wanders. Just recognize it and then bring it back to the present moment. The more you do this, the easier it becomes. Over time, you'll start to notice that you can stay focused for longer periods, and when your mind does wander, you're quicker to catch it and refocus. Another crucial aspect of mastering focus is setting clear, specific goals. When you don't know exactly what you're working toward, it's hard to maintain your attention. Focus thrives when you have a well-defined target. It's like trying to hit a moving target. The clearer the target, the easier it is to hit. If your goals are vague or undefined, your mind will wander because it won't have a clear direction. Break your larger goals down into smaller, actionable steps, and set clear intentions for each one. This gives your brain something to focus on, and when you hit those smaller milestones, you'll feel a sense of accomplishment that propels you forward. But even with the best environment, routines and goals, there's one last ingredient that often gets overlooked. Rest. If you're pushing yourself too hard and not allowing yourself time to recharge, your focus will suffer. The brain needs rest to function at its best. This is why it's so important to take breaks, get enough sleep, and give yourself time to relax. Without rest, your focus will begin to deteriorate, and you'll find yourself feeling mentally exhausted and unproductive. Balance is key. You can't expect to maintain laser-sharp focus if you're constantly running on empty. Mastering focus isn't something that happens overnight. It's a skill that requires consistent practice, discipline, and patience. But once you start to build your focus muscle, you'll find that it pays off in every area of your life. When you can focus deeply on what matters, you become unstoppable. You'll accomplish more in less time, and you'll feel a sense of satisfaction and fulfillment that comes from truly dedicating yourself to your goals. The next time you find yourself struggling with distractions or losing focus, remind yourself that this is a skill you're building, not something you either have or don't have. Just like any other muscle, focus becomes stronger the more you work it. And when you master focus, you'll see your life transform in ways you never thought possible. You'll be more productive, more present, and more successful than you ever imagined. And all it takes is the commitment to stay focused on what truly matters, one step at a time. Chapter 8. Accountability. The secret weapon of discipline. Accountability is the quiet force that drives consistency, the unseen hand that keeps you moving forward, even when you don't feel like it. Imagine waking up every morning knowing you have someone or something checking in on your progress, holding you to the promises you made to yourself. It might sound like pressure, but the truth is, accountability isn't about judgment or criticism. It's about a gentle reminder that you are capable of more than you think, that you've set goals for a reason, and that every small step you take counts toward a bigger picture. It's the secret weapon that separates those who dream from those who do. In a world where distractions are endless and temptations lurk at every corner, staying on track can feel like an impossible task. There are days when the drive to continue is low, when the path forward feels uncertain, and when every excuse in the book seems like a valid reason to stop. This is where accountability steps in and makes the difference. It's the constant presence that nudges you back on course when you begin to wander, the commitment that turns your intentions into actions. Without it, it's easy to fall into complacency, to give in to the fleeting comforts of today at the expense of tomorrow's success. The power of accountability lies in its ability to make your goals real, tangible, and non-negotiable. When you share your aspirations with someone else, you're no longer working in isolation. You're putting your intentions into the world, and by doing so, you're increasing the pressure, positive pressure, that keeps you focused. Whether it's a friend, a mentor, a coach, or even a group of like-minded individuals, having someone to hold you accountable makes your goals feel more significant. It's no longer just about what you want for yourself, it's about the responsibility you've taken on toward others as well. The act of sharing your journey creates a subtle but powerful shift in how seriously you take your commitment. But accountability isn't just about having someone to report to. It's also about cultivating internal accountability, the voice inside that holds you to the promises you make to yourself. It's about becoming the person who follows through, who shows up even when there's no one watching. This is where the true power of accountability lies, not in external forces, but in developing an internal system of checks and balances. When you become your own accountability partner, you start to understand that your word is your bond, and you begin to trust yourself to do what you say you will. This inner accountability is what builds unshakable discipline, because it's not reliant on anyone else to push you forward. It's fueled by your own commitment to your own growth. Accountability works best when it's not just a one-time thing. It needs to be woven into the fabric of your daily life. It's about setting clear expectations and having regular check-ins to measure your progress. When you make a plan, don't just leave it in your mind to fizzle out with time. Write it down, share it with someone, and schedule regular check-ins to ensure you're on track. These check-ins could take many forms: daily reminders to yourself, weekly conversations with a friend, or monthly goal-setting meetings with a mentor. The key is to make it a habit. The more frequently you engage in accountability, the more ingrained it becomes in your daily routine, and the more committed you become to your goals. However, accountability doesn't just keep you on track when everything is going smoothly. It's during the tough times, the moments of doubt and frustration, that it truly shows its value. When you hit a roadblock, when you're faced with resistance, and when your motivation wanes, accountability is the force that keeps you going. It's easy to keep pushing when things are going well, but what about when the going gets tough? That's when accountability becomes your anchor, the steady reminder that you've made a commitment to yourself and that quitting is not an option. It's about creating a support system that reminds you of your why and encourages you to keep going, even when it seems like everything else is falling apart. The beauty of accountability is that it works both ways. It's not just about you being accountable to others, but also about you being accountable to them. When you share your journey with others, you're also creating an environment where they can hold you to a higher standard, where they can offer feedback and guidance that you might not be able to see on your own. This reciprocal nature of accountability fosters a sense of community and connection. You're not alone in your struggles. You're part of a bigger picture, a group of people who are all working toward their own goals and holding each other up along the way. Accountability also forces you to be honest with yourself. When you know someone is expecting you to report on your progress, it becomes harder to make excuses or hide from the truth. It's easy to lie to yourself when you don't have anyone to answer to, but when you have an accountability partner, you're forced to face reality. You can't hide behind the excuses anymore, and that's when real growth happens. Accountability helps you see things as they are, not as you wish them to be. It forces you to take ownership of your actions, your results, and your decisions, and that's where the power of transformation lies. At first, being held accountable can feel uncomfortable, especially if you're not used to being transparent about your progress. But over time, it becomes a tool of empowerment, a source of motivation, and a reminder that you're not in this alone. The discomfort you feel when you're held accountable is actually a sign that you're growing. It means that you're stretching beyond your comfort zone and pushing toward something greater. And that discomfort is the fuel that will drive you to keep going, to show up, and to continue pursuing your goals no matter what. So how can you make accountability a part of your daily life? Start by finding someone who supports your goals and who will hold you to a high standard. Share your intentions with them and ask for their help in keeping you on track. Set regular check-ins and use them as a tool for reflection and growth. Don't shy away from the tough conversations. Embrace them, because they are the conversations that will push you forward. Whether it's a close friend, a coach, or even a group of peers, find a support system that challenges you to show up, to do the work, and to keep improving every single day. In the end, accountability is the bridge between intention and action. It takes the abstract idea of a goal and makes it real, tangible, and measurable. It keeps you committed to the promises you make to yourself and ensures that you stay the course, even when it's hard. Accountability isn't a crutch, it's the catalyst for consistent progress, and when you embrace it fully, there's no limit to what you can achieve. So don't shy away from the accountability that's available to you. Use it as a tool for growth, and watch as your dreams become your reality. Chapter 9. Building Resilience. The key to bouncing back. There's a quiet power in resilience, a kind of strength that doesn't just let you survive challenges, it lets you thrive through them. Resilience is what turns failure into fuel, setbacks into opportunities, and struggles into stepping stones. Without resilience, every obstacle feels like a dead end, but with it, even the hardest roads become part of the journey to success. Life has a way of throwing curveballs, and it's not the punches we take that define us, but how we rise from them. When you build resilience, you're not just learning to cope with adversity, you're learning how to come out stronger, wiser, and more determined than before. You've probably heard the phrase, "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger," but the truth is, not everyone becomes stronger from hardship. Some people crumble under pressure, unable to bounce back from a setback, while others seem to emerge from the same trials more determined than ever. What separates those who are resilient from those who aren't? It's not about being immune to pain or difficulty. It's about having the mindset and tools to face challenges head-on, adapt to the circumstances, and keep moving forward with purpose. The first key to building resilience is understanding that it's not about avoiding pain or hardship, it's about how you choose to respond to it. Life is going to test you. There's no way around it, but your response is where your power lies. It's easy to feel overwhelmed when things go wrong, to let self-doubt creep in and take hold of your mind. In those moments, resilience is what keeps you grounded. It's the ability to take a step back, reassess the situation, and keep pushing forward, no matter how difficult it may seem. Resilience doesn't mean pretending that everything is okay or pushing through without acknowledging your feelings. It means accepting your emotions, understanding that pain is a part of growth, and choosing to keep moving forward in spite of it. Resilience is built through repetition. It's like a muscle that strengthens every time you face adversity and choose to rise above it. Every setback you experience is an opportunity to build that muscle. The more you practice bouncing back from difficulties, the stronger you become. Think of resilience like a rubber band. When you stretch it, it doesn't break, it just snaps back into its original form. The more you stretch it, the further it can go without snapping. You too can stretch yourself through the challenges you face, knowing that the more you endure, the more resilient you become. One of the most powerful ways to build resilience is by shifting your mindset. When you face a challenge, do you see it as a threat or an opportunity? The resilient person sees every obstacle as a chance to learn, to grow, and to prove to themselves that they are capable of handling anything life throws their way. Rather than getting bogged down by what went wrong, resilient people focus on what they can do to move forward. They ask themselves questions like, "What can I learn from this?" or "How can I use this setback to get closer to my goal?" This mindset shift is what separates the resilient from the rest. It's about taking ownership of your circumstances, no matter how challenging, and finding ways to adapt and move forward. The next aspect of resilience is persistence. Resilient people don't give up after one failure, they keep going. They understand that success isn't a straight line, and that every setback is just another lesson along the way. When things don't go as planned, it's easy to feel defeated, but the resilient person understands that this is just part of the process. They keep their eyes on the bigger picture and refuse to let temporary setbacks define them. When you cultivate persistence, you learn to keep going, even when the path is unclear, even when the outcome is uncertain. You keep pushing, knowing that every step, no matter how small, brings you closer to your goal. Building resilience also requires a strong sense of purpose. When you have a clear vision of what you want to achieve and why it matters to you, it becomes easier to face challenges with determination. When your goals are connected to a deeper sense of meaning, you become less likely to give up when things get tough. The key is to remind yourself why you're doing what you're doing. What's your why? When you connect your actions to a larger purpose, setbacks become mere obstacles to overcome, not insurmountable barriers. This sense of purpose gives you the energy and motivation to keep going, even when the going gets tough. Another crucial element of resilience is emotional regulation. Resilient people know how to manage their emotions during stressful situations. They don't let fear, anger, or frustration take over. Instead, they acknowledge those feelings and find ways to deal with them constructively. Resilience doesn't mean never feeling negative emotions. It means learning how to process them in a healthy way. This might mean taking a deep breath, stepping away from the situation, or talking things through with someone you trust. The more you practice emotional regulation, the better you become at staying calm and focused when challenges arise. Resilience is also about learning from failure rather than fearing it. Most people are afraid of failure because they associate it with defeat. But resilient people understand that failure is not an end, it's a lesson. Every failure is an opportunity to learn, to adjust, and to try again. When you remove the fear of failure and replace it with a mindset of growth, you begin to see challenges as part of the journey rather than obstacles to avoid. This shift in perspective is what allows you to bounce back from adversity stronger than ever. In building resilience, it's important to surround yourself with the right support. Resilient people often have strong networks of friends, family, mentors, or colleagues who encourage them during difficult times. These people provide emotional support, practical advice, and a reminder that they are not alone. Resilience isn't about being invincible, it's about knowing when to ask for help, to lean on others, and to accept support when it's needed. Your network of support can make all the difference when you're facing challenges, as they can provide perspective, encouragement, and motivation when you need it most. Resilience doesn't come overnight. It's a process, a journey that requires patience, practice, and self-compassion. It's about accepting that life will throw you curveballs, but also knowing that you have the strength to overcome them. The more you practice resilience, the more it becomes a part of who you are. It becomes the lens through which you see the world, the filter through which you process challenges, and the fuel that keeps you moving forward. So when life gets tough, remember that you have the power to rise above it. You have the ability to bounce back from setbacks and come out stronger on the other side. Resilience is not about avoiding hardship. It's about learning to thrive through it. It's about turning every challenge into an opportunity for growth, and every setback into a chance to come back stronger. The road to success is rarely smooth, but with resilience, you'll have the strength to navigate it with confidence, knowing that nothing can hold you back. Chapter 10: Discipline as a Lifestyle. The Unstoppable You. Discipline is not a skill that simply appears overnight. It is cultivated, molded, and woven into every fiber of our daily routine. It's not an abstract idea or something only the extraordinarily gifted can possess. It's something anyone can develop if they're willing to commit to it, day in and day out. You see, discipline isn't a singular event. It's a lifestyle, a choice you make again and again every single day. When you build discipline into your life, it becomes the foundation for everything you do. It shapes your decisions, influences your actions, and steers your course, especially when the winds of life are less than favorable. When you think of a disciplined person, you might picture someone who is always on top of things, someone who never procrastinates, who wakes up at the crack of dawn, has everything planned out, and seems to get everything done without breaking a sweat. While that might be true for some, discipline isn't about perfection. It's not about doing everything right all the time. It's about making the conscious decision to stay on track, to keep going, even when you want to quit. Discipline is about consistency. It's about showing up for yourself and your goals, even on the days when you don't feel like it. It's about making small, meaningful decisions that align with your long-term vision, even when the immediate rewards don't seem worth it. Here's the thing. Building unbreakable discipline is not easy, but it's not meant to be. If it were, everyone would do it, and the world would be filled with people living their best, most productive lives. Discipline is about choosing the hard path over and over again, even when the easy path is tempting. It's about resisting the urge to procrastinate, even when you're tired or distracted. It's about putting in the effort, even when it feels like nobody's watching. But here's where the magic happens. When you make discipline a habit, it doesn't feel as hard anymore. It becomes second nature. What once felt like a huge effort becomes just another part of your day. It's like a muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger it gets. And the stronger it gets, the easier it is to stay committed. Imagine waking up every day with a clear purpose, knowing exactly what needs to be done, and doing it without hesitation. Picture yourself moving through your day with a sense of pride, knowing that you are keeping your promises to yourself. The person who lives a disciplined life is not just more productive. They feel a sense of fulfillment that comes from doing what they said they would do. And that's powerful. That's the feeling that keeps you going, even when challenges arise. It's what makes you keep getting up when you've fallen down, what makes you keep pushing when you're exhausted. It's the satisfaction of knowing that every day you are making progress toward the person you want to become. But discipline isn't just about willpower or sheer grit. It's also about designing your environment to support the life you want to live. You've probably heard the saying, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Well, you are also the average of the habits you practice every day. If your environment is full of distractions, temptations, and negativity, then staying disciplined becomes a real uphill battle. But if you actively create an environment that aligns with your goals, whether that means getting rid of distractions, surrounding yourself with supportive people, or even setting up systems that make it easier to stay on track, discipline becomes something you can lean on, instead of something you constantly have to fight for. Creating the right environment starts with being intentional about your daily habits. Every day is an opportunity to make choices that either build your discipline or chip away at it. For example, when you wake up in the morning, how you start your day will determine how disciplined you are the rest of the day. If you wake up to chaos, stress, or an overwhelming to-do list, you're setting yourself up for a day of scrambling and feeling out of control. But if you wake up with intention, if you take a few moments to center yourself, plan your day, and set clear priorities, you are already setting the tone for the rest of the day. The next step in building unbreakable discipline is learning how to set yourself up for success. This means breaking your goals down into manageable steps and creating a plan that you can stick to, even when life throws you off course. The most disciplined people aren't necessarily the most motivated. They're simply the ones who have figured out how to make progress, no matter what. They don't wait for the perfect moment to start. They start now with whatever they have. They break big goals into smaller, actionable steps and focus on doing one thing at a time. Each small action builds momentum, and before they know it, they've created something extraordinary. But even with the best systems in place, you're still going to face days where you just don't feel like doing anything. These are the days that separate the people who have fleeting discipline from those who build an unbreakable lifestyle. On these days, it's about showing up anyway. It's about sticking to your plan, even when your motivation is low. It's about doing the thing you committed to, no matter how small, just to prove to yourself that you are in control. It's those moments that reinforce your discipline and make it stronger. You won't feel motivated all the time, and that's okay. What matters is that you keep going even when you don't feel like it. Because every time you push through, you're teaching yourself that you can rely on your discipline no matter what. There's a deeper level to this, though. Building unbreakable discipline is also about understanding the long-term payoff. It's about seeing the bigger picture and recognizing that the small, consistent actions you take today will lead to results that are far greater than any instant gratification could offer. Discipline isn't just about getting things done. It's about the kind of person you become in the process. When you are disciplined, you develop the confidence that comes with knowing you can achieve anything you set your mind to. You become someone who doesn't make excuses, who doesn't rely on motivation to get things done, and who is always working toward becoming the best version of themselves. The truth is, discipline will never feel easy in the beginning, and that's okay. You will face resistance, self-doubt, and temptation to quit. But every time you push through, you're not just building discipline, you're building resilience. And the more you commit to this unbreakable lifestyle of discipline, the more natural it will feel. Eventually your mind will associate discipline with success, growth, and achievement, and it will become an automatic part of your life. Discipline is the foundation upon which every other success is built. Without it, dreams stay dreams, goals remain out of reach, and potential goes untapped. But with discipline, you can create a life that is consistent, focused, and most importantly, fulfilling. So ask yourself, what kind of person do you want to be? Are you ready to make the choice to show up every day, to commit to your goals, and to build the life you've always wanted? Because with unbreakable discipline, that life is within your reach. And every day, you'll be one step closer to becoming the person you've always known you could be.